The mission begins. A hunter without a choice. Captain Ryan Cole sat alone in the cold metal room, his fingers tapping against the table. The air smelled of burnt circuits and stale coffee. The mission file lay in front of him, glowing on the holoscreen. His orders were clear: find and eliminate the target. The target's name was Zyra, a Vishari, one of the most dangerous alien species in the galaxy. Ryan had killed many in his life. He was a soldier, trained to follow orders without hesitation. But this mission felt different. A small video played on the screen. It showed a young Vishari female, silver skin, glowing violet eyes, dark braided hair. She looked no older than 20. The report said she was responsible for the death of 12 Terran officers. A threat. A killer. Ryan clenched his jaw. The Vishari were known for their speed, strength, and mind tricks. They could control thoughts, manipulate emotions. That's why they were considered too dangerous to be left alive. He sighed and shut the holoscreen. No room for doubts. No room for mistakes. The drop. The transport ship rattled as it entered the dark atmosphere of Dakar 4, a lifeless, abandoned planet. A perfect place for a hunt. Ryan checked his weapons. A pulse rifle slung over his back, a plasma blade on his belt, and his combat suit programmed to track heat signatures. No mistakes. He was the best in his squad. He would get the job done. Captain. The pilot's voice came through his earpiece. We're nearing the drop zone. You'll be alone from here. Ryan smirked. He preferred it that way. The ship hovered above the rocky surface. Dust and ash swirled in the air. Ryan jumped down, landing with a soft thud. The silence around him felt unnatural. No wind, no life, just darkness. His visor scanned the area. There, a heat signature, moving fast. She was close. The chase. Ryan moved swiftly, stepping over broken structures and cracked ground. The ruins of an old research facility surrounded him. He gripped his rifle, finger on the trigger. Then a sound, a faint whisper of movement. He turned, too late. A blur of silver and black shot past him. His instincts kicked in, and he rolled aside just as a plasma knife sliced through the air where his neck had been. He aimed his rifle, but she was already gone. Damn, she was fast. Ryan steadied his breathing. Come out, Vishari. Make this easy for both of us. No answer, just silence. Then, a voice. Soft, calm, almost sad. You don't want to do this. Ryan stiffened. His visor scanned the shadows, locking onto a figure standing on a broken ledge above. Zyra. She looked just like the video. Silver skin glowing softly under the dark sky. Violet eyes watching him. Not with fear, not with aggression, but with something else. I have no choice, Ryan said coldly. You killed 12 of my men. Zyra tilted her head. Is that what they told you? His grip tightened on his rifle. Don't try your tricks on me. I don't have to, she said. You already feel it, don't you? Something is wrong. Ryan hesitated, just for a second too long. She moved. He fired, but she was faster. She dropped from the ledge, landing right in front of him. A sharp blade flashed in her hand. Ryan blocked the attack with his rifle, twisting away and drawing his plasma blade. They clashed. Sparks flew as metal met energy. Zyra was skilled, but Ryan was stronger. He forced her back, pinning her against a broken wall. His blade pressed against her throat. One move, and it would be over. Her violet eyes met his. Ryan expected fear, hatred, a desperate fight for survival. Instead, he saw something else. Pain, sorrow, a silent plea. Please, she whispered. You don't understand. I'm not your enemy. Ryan's heart pounded. Why was she not fighting back? The order was simple. Kill the target. No questions, no hesitation. But his hands didn't move. Something deep inside him screamed that this wasn't right. Zyra saw the doubt in his eyes. She took a slow breath and said words that changed everything. If you knew the truth, you wouldn't kill me. A deadly encounter, but something feels wrong. The moment hung in the air like a loaded gun. Ryan Cole had been in battlefields before. Chaotic, bloody, full of screams and fire. He had faced monsters with burning red eyes, fought in zero-gravity dogfights, and executed orders without hesitation. But this was different. His plasma blade hovered inches from Zara's throat. One move, and she would be dead, just like his orders commanded. Yet, he couldn't do it. Her violet eyes didn't hold the look of a murderer. There was no rage, no cruelty, just something raw, something fragile. Fear, not fear of death. No, Ryan had seen that look before. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of something else. Zara took a shaky breath. If you knew the truth, you wouldn't kill me. Ryan's fingers tightened around the handle of his blade. His mind screamed at him to finish the mission, complete the objective, pull the damn trigger. And yet, his hands didn't move. The lie he never questioned. Truth. Ryan finally said, voice hard. You killed 12 of my men. That's the only truth I need. Zara held his gaze. That's what they told you, didn't they? Ryan pressed the blade closer, his heart hammering. He needed to block out her words, shut out the doubt creeping into his brain like a slow virus. But she wasn't begging. She wasn't lying, either. She was waiting. Waiting for him to see it. He clenched his jaw. What the hell are you talking about? Zara exhaled softly. You already feel it, don't you? Something is wrong. You've fought real enemies before. Does this feel the same? Ryan wanted to argue, but it didn't. Nothing about this felt right. The hunt had been too easy. The mission was too clean-cut. A single soldier sent to eliminate a deadly threat. Alone. That wasn't how the Terran military worked. They sent entire squads. They planned for months. Yet they had sent only him. Why? A sharp beep in his earpiece made him freeze. Incoming transmission. General Rourke. His superior. The man who had given him this mission. Ryan hesitated for a brief moment, then tapped his earpiece. Cole here. The general's voice was calm, steady, too steady. Report. Ryan glanced at Zara. Still pinned, still unmoving. He swallowed. Target located. Engaged in combat. Good. Execute her now. Ryan's breath slowed. The order was expected, but the way it was given, it wasn't a command, it was a demand. Urgent, desperate. Why the rush? Ryan's silence stretched too long. Captain. The general's voice sharpened. What's the delay? Zara's lips parted slightly. A silent realization flickered in her expression. She heard it too. Something wasn't right. Ryan didn't lower his blade, but he didn't move it either. Understood, sir, he said instead. Then he cut the transmission. The choice that changed everything. Zara let out a slow breath. You feel it now, don't you? Ryan exhaled sharply. Shut up. You know I'm not the enemy. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because a part of him was starting to believe her. His mission was too clean. His orders too direct. The military never operated like this. And yet, here he was, alone, sent to kill someone who wasn't even fighting back. A distant sound made him tense. Engines. Getting closer. Ryan's visor flashed red. Multiple heat signatures inbound. Troops. The military was coming. They never send backup unless something is wrong. Zara's expression darkened. They were never going to let you leave, Ryan. He stiffened. What? Her voice was quiet but steady. You weren't sent here to kill me. She took a slow breath. You were sent here to die. The trap. Ryan's mind raced. She was lying. She had to be. But why did it make so much sense? The rushed orders, the lack of backup, the immediate demand for execution. They never planned for him to make it out. Because if he did, he might start asking questions. A heavy silence fell between them. Ryan's thoughts screamed at him, a chaotic mess of loyalty, logic, and something deeper, instinct. Then, Zyra's voice cut through everything. "If you want to live," she said softly, "you have to trust me." Ryan's pulse thundered. A Vishari, an enemy, a target. And yet, his gut told him she was right. The roaring engines grew louder. They were almost here. Ryan made a choice. He stepped back and lowered his blade. Zyra didn't run, didn't attack. She simply watched. Then, her lips curved into the smallest, knowing smile. "You're smarter than they think, Captain." Ryan didn't answer. He just clenched his fists and prepared for war. The truth unfolds. Who's the real enemy? The night sky of Dakarfor was blacker than ink, broken only by the distant shimmer of dying stars. The planet had long been abandoned, its cracked ruins a silent reminder of forgotten wars. But tonight, the dead land stirred again, not with ghosts, but with hunters. Ryan Cole could hear the distant hum of approaching dropships. They were coming for him. For both of them. He tightened his grip on his plasma blade. His instincts screamed at him to run, to fight, to do something. But his mind was a battlefield of its own. Orders versus truth. Duty versus instinct. Kill versus trust. And standing before him was Zyra, the girl he was sent to eliminate. Her violet eyes held no fear, just quiet understanding. "They're coming," she said. Ryan clenched his jaw. "Yeah, and they're not here to rescue me." Betrayed by his own. Ryan's visor flashed red. Incoming strike teams. ETA 60 seconds. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. They weren't just here for Zyra. They were here to erase the entire mission. Him included. Ryan had served the Terran elite force for 10 years. He had bled for them, lost men for them, done the dirty work they didn't want to acknowledge. And now, they were discarding him like a used weapon. His hands curled into fists. Why? The holo transmission from General Rourke echoed in his head. Execute her. Now. Not capture. Not bring her in for interrogation. Execute. And when Ryan hesitated, they sent a full squad. They had no intention of letting him leave. It was a setup. But why go through the trouble? Why send one of their own best soldiers just to wipe him out? He turned to Zyra. "You know something," he said. "Not a question. A fact." Zyra nodded. "I know why they want me dead. And now, I know why they want you dead too." Ryan's fingers twitched near his rifle. "Start talking. Fast." Zyra's voice was quiet but firm. "The war you're fighting, the one they told you was necessary, it's a lie. The war that never was." Ryan frowned. "You expect me to believe that?" Zyra took a step closer. "I expect you to think." The engines of the drop ships grew louder. The Terran troops would be on them within moments. There was no time, but Ryan needed answers. Zyra took a deep breath. "Do you know why my people, the Vishari, have never launched a full-scale war against humanity? Why, despite all our supposed power, we've never invaded, never destroyed your colonies?" Ryan didn't answer, because he had never thought about it. He had been too busy fighting. Zyra continued, voice steady. "We never wanted war. We tried negotiating, tried diplomacy, tried peace." She exhaled. "And every time, your government refused." Ryan scoffed. "Because your kind can control minds. How the hell do you expect us to trust you?" Zyra's jaw tightened. "We can influence emotions, yes. But that doesn't mean we use it for war." She shook her head. "We were scientists, explorers. We traveled the stars looking for knowledge. But your leaders, they wanted an enemy." Ryan's pulse quickened. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" Zyra's eyes searched his. "Think, Captain. How much do you really know about this war? Have you ever seen a Vishari attack fleet? Ever found evidence that we were planning to invade your worlds? Ryan opened his mouth to argue. But then he stopped. Because the truth was, he hadn't. Every mission he had ever been on was a counterattack. Raids on Vishari outposts. Targeted assassinations, striking first before they could retaliate. But had they ever actually attacked Earth? Had there ever been a real battle? His stomach twisted. How much had been manufactured? Zira took another step toward him. Your people weren't fighting a war, Ryan. They were making sure it never ended. Ryan felt something crack inside him. Doubt. A dangerous thing for a soldier. No time left. A sharp, mechanical click snapped Ryan's attention back to reality. His visor flashed red. Targeting systems locked on. The Terran forces had arrived. Zira's face hardened. Decision time. Captain. Ryan looked at her. Really looked. The girl he was ordered to kill. The enemy he was supposed to hate. The target who could have killed him but didn't. The one person who was giving him the truth. His rifle was in his hands before he had time to second-guess himself. Zira's breath caught. For a split second, Ryan saw the flicker of resignation in her eyes. She thought he was going to kill her. Instead, he turned and fired. Straight at the Terran squad. The first soldier dropped, his armor sparking under the impact. The rest of the unit hesitated for half a second, just long enough for Ryan to grab Zira's wrist and start running. This is insane, he muttered under his breath. Zira stumbled behind him. You're the one shooting at your own people. Ryan grit his teeth. They weren't his people anymore. Explosions rocked the ruins behind them as plasma shots rained down. Ryan knew this planet had one way off. A hidden emergency shuttle buried beneath the ruins. But it was a long shot. And if they didn't get to it in time, they were dead. His earpiece buzzed again. General Rourke. Ryan answered. Cole. The general's voice was cold, sharp. You just made the worst mistake of your life. Ryan's jaw clenched. No, sir, he said, glancing at Zira. For the first time, I think I made the right one. The chase, running from both sides. A soldier runs differently when he's running for his life. Ryan Cole wasn't just escaping enemy fire, he was escaping his own people. Plasma rounds exploded around him, kicking up dust and debris as he sprinted across the ruined wasteland of Dakarfor. The night air was thick with the acrid scent of burning rock and ozone, and every instinct in his body screamed at him to keep moving. Zira ran beside him, her breath sharp but steady. She wasn't trained like him. Not a soldier, not a killer, but she kept up, her silver skin gleaming under the broken moonlight. Behind them, the Terran strike team was closing in. Ryan had fought alongside these men before. He had trusted them with his life. Now, they were hunting him. Cole. The voice of General Rourke barked through his earpiece, cold and sharp as steel. Stop running. You're making this worse. Ryan didn't reply. He didn't have time for lies. A desperate escape. They were running out of options. Ryan's visor mapped out the terrain ahead, broken structures, collapsed tunnels, and one last hope. An underground hangar. It was a long shot. If the emergency shuttle inside still worked, they had a chance. If not, they were dead. Zira, move. Ryan grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward a crumbling building. Plasma fire rained down, narrowly missing them. The air was alive with heat and chaos. Ryan's pulse roared in his ears as he dragged Zira through the ruined corridors of what had once been a research facility. Where are we going? She gasped. Underground Bay, Ryan said between breaths. There's an old transport ship, if we're lucky. A shockwave sent them both flying forward. Ryan hit the ground hard, rolling onto his back just in time to see a strike drone hovering above, its cannons glowing bright red. They weren't taking chances. They weren't bringing him back. They were trying to eliminate him. Ryan's vision blurred as dust filled the air. Zira was beside him, coughing, eyes wide. The drone's targeting system locked onto them. 3 seconds until it fired. Ryan reached for his rifle. Too slow. Zira moved first. Her violet eyes flared, and suddenly the air around them shifted. The drone's systems flickered. Its cannons whined, losing power for a fraction of a second, just long enough for Ryan to take the shot. One pulse round, straight through its core. The drone dropped from the sky, lifeless. Ryan turned to Zira, breathing hard. What the hell was that? Zira wiped blood from her nose. Her voice was weak. I told you, we don't control minds. But we can disrupt things. Ryan's jaw tightened. Whatever she had done, it had cost her. And they still weren't safe. Hunted from both sides. They reached the underground bay minutes later. Ryan pried open the rusted metal door, forcing it shut behind them. Inside, the hangar stretched wide, filled with the remains of broken-down ships. And at the far end, a single transport shuttle. Ryan didn't waste time. He sprinted toward it, jumping into the cockpit, fingers flying over the controls. The ship's power flickered, then died. Dead systems. No fuel. No chance. Ryan slammed his fist against the dashboard. Damn it. Zira climbed into the co-pilot seat, breathing heavily. Now what? Ryan checked his visor. The Terran squad was already at the entrance. And worse, something else was coming. A second signal. Not human. Ryan turned to Zira. Your people are here, aren't they? Zira's hands clenched. Yes. Ryan exhaled slowly. They were trapped. The Terrans wanted him dead. The Vishari wanted Zira dead. And no one was coming to save them. The truth no one wants known. Ryan took a deep breath. He was trained for impossible situations. Find the weakness. Use it. Survive. He turned to Zira. Tell me everything. Now. Zira's expression hardened. You won't believe me. Ryan grabbed her wrist. Try me. Her violet eyes met his. And for the first time, she spoke without hesitation. The war isn't real, Ryan. It never was. Your leaders and mine. They built it. They created a conflict that never had to exist. Ryan's stomach twisted. Why? Zira's voice was quiet. Control. Ryan's mind raced. He had heard whispers before. Rumors of fake threats, of staged battles, of politicians and generals growing rich from a war that never ended. But he had never believed it. Until now. Zira continued. There was a peace treaty signed 20 years ago. A real one. But it was buried. Because war means power. And power means control. Ryan clenched his fists. His entire life. His training. His missions. The men he lost. Was it all for a lie? No, not just a lie. A crime. And now he was part of it. A soldier who knew too much. A target. Zira's voice was soft. You understand now, don't you? That's why they sent you alone. They didn't expect you to question orders. They just expected you to kill me and die. Ryan looked at his hands. The hands of a soldier who had spent his life fighting shadows. Outside, the sounds of approaching forces grew louder. Zira whispered, They won't let us leave this planet. Ryan stood up. His mind was clear now. The mission was over. The old Ryan Cole, the loyal soldier, the obedient killer, was dead. A new man stood in his place, and he had only one mission now. To expose the truth. The final stand. Ryan turned back to Zira, fire in his eyes. You said we don't have a chance. Zira nodded. Ryan smirked. Then let's make one. He pulled a set of detonation charges from his belt and tossed one to Zira. Her eyes widened. You're insane. Probably. Ryan activated the countdown. 60 seconds. One way or another, they weren't dying here. Zira grinned. Now this is getting interesting. The first explosion rocked the underground bay as the enemies breached the entrance, and Ryan and Zira ran. Not as enemies. Not as soldiers. but as the only two people who knew the truth, and the entire galaxy was about to find out. Betrayal and loss. The cost of truth. The world was on fire. Ryan Cole ran through the collapsing ruins of Dakar 4, his breath sharp, his grip tight on the pulse rifle. The underground hangar was caving in around them, explosions tearing through the walls as the charges he had set began detonating. The Terran strike team and the Vishari hunters had both entered the base at the same time. Now, they were fighting each other. And in the middle of that chaos, Ryan and Zira were running out of time. Ryan's visor flickered red, multiple hostiles detected. He ignored the warning. He had stopped thinking like a soldier. Now, he was thinking like a survivor. Behind him, Zira struggled to keep up. She wasn't trained for this kind of combat, but she pushed forward, her violet eyes sharp, determined. Another explosion rocked the ground. The metal beams overhead groaned, barely holding together. If they didn't get out soon, they wouldn't get out at all. Faster, Ryan yelled, grabbing her wrist and pulling her forward. The dust was thick, the air filled with the sharp scent of burning steel. The Terran soldiers were regrouping, their armored boots echoing through the hangar. And Ryan knew they wouldn't stop until he and Zira were dead. The final betrayal. They reached the last hallway. The exit. Ryan's heart pounded as he slammed the door controls. Nothing. The system was dead. They were trapped. Zira's breathing was uneven. Tell me there's another way out. Ryan's mind raced. The only way now was to fight through. His earpiece buzzed. A private frequency. A familiar voice. Ryan. Ryan's stomach twisted. He knew that voice. Lieutenant Doran, his second in command, a man who had fought beside him for years. Ryan hit the communicator. Doran, where the hell are you? A pause. Then, a sigh. Right behind you. Ryan spun around just in time to see Doran step out of the shadows. He wasn't alone. 5 Terran soldiers stood with him, weapons raised. Ryan's blood turned to ice. Doran. His voice was careful, controlled. Tell me you're here to help. Doran's face was unreadable. Ryan, just surrender. Don't make this worse. Ryan felt Zira tense beside him. He could feel the moment slowing down, the weight of the moment pressing on his chest. You're going to kill me, aren't you? Ryan's voice was eerily calm. Doran's fingers twitched on his rifle. You disobeyed direct orders. His voice was quieter now, almost regretful. You know how this works. Ryan swallowed the rising anger in his throat. I followed orders my whole damn life. And for what? Lies? This war isn't real, Doran. It never was. Doran's jaw tightened. That doesn't matter anymore. Ryan exhaled. It should. For a second, Doran hesitated. Ryan saw it, the doubt, the internal battle. But then Doran's expression hardened. It's too late, Ryan. Ryan felt his heart sink. His closest friend had already made his choice. A last stand. The first shot came without warning. Ryan barely moved in time, shoving Zira behind cover as a pulse round slammed into the wall behind them. Doran didn't hesitate anymore. Ryan cursed, rolling into position. The fight was on. His rifle came up, and he fired. 2 of Doran's men went down instantly, their armor sparking as they crumpled to the ground. But the others kept coming. Ryan ducked behind a fallen support beam, his mind calculating escape routes. Zira was beside him, her hands pressed to her temples. Ryan saw the strain on her face. What are you doing? He asked. She barely whispered, trying to stop them. Ryan realized too late what she meant. Doran's soldiers froze for a split second, just long enough for Ryan to take another shot, taking down a 3rd man. But then Zira gasped in pain. Ryan turned. Blood was dripping from her nose. Her hands trembled. The strain of using her ability was killing her. Stop. Ryan grabbed her wrist. You can't hold them off. Zira blinked up at him. Her voice was barely a whisper. We don't have a choice. Another explosion shook the hangar, cutting off the conversation. Ryan turned back. Doran had him in his sights. And this time, he wasn't hesitating. A shot rang out. Ryan moved too slow. Pain ripped through his side. He hit the ground hard. His vision blurred as blood soaked through his combat suit. Doran walked toward him, his rifle still raised. Ryan tried to move. He couldn't. Everything felt cold. The cost of truth. Zira screamed. Something inside her snapped. The air around them rippled. Ryan saw Doran stagger, clutching his head. His remaining men collapsed to their knees, groaning in pain. Zira's violet eyes were glowing too bright. Her hands trembled as she pushed something invisible outward. Doran struggled to move, his face twisted in agony. Zira, stop. She didn't. Ryan forced himself up despite the pain. If she kept pushing her abilities, she would die. He reached for her, grabbing her shoulders. Zira, stop. Her eyes flickered to him, wild, desperate, scared. And then she collapsed. The energy vanished. Doran and his men slumped to the ground, unconscious. Ryan caught Zira just before she hit the floor. Her breathing was weak. Her silver skin was too pale. Ryan pressed a hand against her cheek. Hey, stay with me. She barely whispered, did we win? Ryan swallowed hard. We're still alive. That's enough. For now. Nowhere left to run. Ryan knew they couldn't stay. His side burned, but he forced himself to move. They had minutes, maybe seconds, before more soldiers arrived. He slung Zira's arm over his shoulder, dragging her toward the shuttle they thought was dead. Ryan wasn't done fighting. They still had the truth. And if there was one thing he knew, truth had a way of setting the galaxy on fire. The final stand. A mission to save her. The world tilted beneath Ryan Cole's feet as he forced himself to move, dragging Zira's half-conscious body through the collapsing ruins of Dakar 4. Every breath felt like fire in his lungs, his side burning from the gunshot wound that Doran had given him. His best friend, his brother in arms. Now, just another enemy. Ryan didn't have time for anger. The walls of the underground hangar trembled from distant explosions. The Terran forces weren't stopping. Neither were the Vishari hunters. They had one goal: wipe out every loose end. Ryan and Zira were the only loose ends left, and they had nowhere left to run. A dying ship and a fading hope. Ryan stumbled forward, dragging Zira toward the old shuttle at the far end of the hangar. It was a rusted Terran Aegis-class transport, probably 50 years old. Power cells were dead, engines non-functional. But Ryan knew ships. He had to make this one fly. Zira groaned against his shoulder. Her skin, normally of soft silver glow, was now pale, almost colorless. The strain of using her abilities had drained her to the edge of death. Ryan gritted his teeth. She had saved him, more than once. Now it was his turn. He kicked open the shuttle's hatch, pulling Zira inside and laying her down gently on the co-pilot's seat. The cockpit was a mess of broken circuits, fried wires, and dust-covered controls. He pressed a hand against the main power console. Nothing. Ryan exhaled. Come on, you piece of junk. A sudden blast rocked the entrance of the hangar. His visor flashed red. Enemy reinforcements inbound. They were out of time. Ryan ripped open a side panel, exposing the ship's primary power core. A Terran Mark V drive, still intact, but the ignition matrix was offline. If he couldn't get it running, they were dead. He turned back to Zira, desperation clawing at his voice. Can you do it again? Zira's eyes barely opened. Do what? Ryan pointed at the dead engine. You knocked out a drone back there. Can you jumpstart this thing? Zira tried to sit up, but her body trembled violently. She was too weak. Ryan cursed. She had saved his life, and now she was dying because of it. There was no other way. Ryan did the only thing left to do. He grabbed a live energy cell from his gear, yanked out the failsafe locks, and jammed it directly into the core. The ship rumbled beneath him. Lights flickered. Systems groaned to life. Engines at 12% power. It wasn't enough. But it would have to do. A sky full of fire. Ryan threw himself into the pilot's seat and slammed his hands onto the controls. The ship's main thrusters sputtered, shaking violently. A voice crackled over the comms. "General Rourke. Cole, stand down. You can't escape." Ryan gritted his teeth, pushing the manual override. "I've never been great at following orders." Engines at 27%. Not good. The hangar shook violently. The Terran forces were firing down at them from above. The main doors were still closed. Ryan turned to Zura. "I need one last trick. Can you make them hesitate? Just for a second." Zura's fingers curled into a weak fist. I can try." Ryan saw the tension in her body as she reached out, her mind brushing against the incoming soldiers. A single push. A delay. For just 1 second, the enemy stopped. Ryan seized the chance. He hit the thrusters. Engines at 40%. The shuttle screamed to life, lifting off the ground. Metal scraped against stone as Ryan forced it forward. The hangar doors were still shut. Ryan only had one option: blast through them. He toggled the forward cannon systems, but nothing responded. Ryan's pulse hammered. No weapons, no shields, just us. Zura's voice was weak, but steady. "Then let's make it count." Ryan grabbed the control stick, lined up the trajectory, and slammed the ship forward at full burn. Breaking through. The moment the shuttle collided with the hangar doors, the metal buckled, screeched, then gave way. They burst into the sky like a dying star reborn. The moment they were clear, the entire base exploded behind them. The shockwave threw the ship sideways. Ryan fought the controls, gritting his teeth as the ship spun through the upper atmosphere. Warning alarms blared. They were out of fuel. The engines were failing, and a Terran warship had just appeared on their radar. Zura coughed weakly. "We're not gonna make it." Ryan refused to accept that. He turned toward the nearest planetary debris field. If they could make it there, they could lose their pursuers. But the warship was already locking onto them. A transmission came through. "Captain Cole, power down your engines or we will fire." Ryan exhaled, eyes flicking toward Zura. She could barely keep her eyes open. If they were captured, they wouldn't survive. His fingers hovered over the controls. Surrender or die fighting. Then, the ship's scanner flashed. An unknown signal. A third ship was approaching. Ryan's blood turned to ice. Vishari ships. They weren't here to help. They were here to erase the last witness to the truth. Ryan clenched his fists. He would not die here. Not like this. He slammed a manual distress beacon, sending a pulse out into the void. A desperate message. To anyone who was listening. To anyone who still cared about the truth. "Mayday, Mayday," Ryan spoke into the static, voice sharp with defiance. "This is Captain Ryan Cole, Terran Elite Force. We are under attack, by both sides." He took a shaky breath. "The war is a lie, and we have the proof." Silence. For one long second, the universe held its breath. Then, a voice crackled over the comms, a voice Ryan didn't recognize. "We hear you, Captain." Ryan's pulse raced. The game had changed. The final choice. Change the galaxy or die trying. The distress signal echoed through the vast emptiness of space, a desperate call for help. A gamble with no guarantees. Ryan Cole's hands were steady on the controls, but his mind raced. He had just made a move that no soldier had ever made before. Betrayed by his own people. Hunted by an alien race that saw him as an enemy. And now floating in the cold silence of space, surrounded by two warships, one Terran, one Vishari, each one ready to wipe him out. The only hope left. A voice that had answered his distress call. A voice Ryan did not recognize. "We hear you, Captain." Whoever it was, they had just changed the game. Nowhere left to run. The ship shuddered violently as the Terran warship sent a warning blast past their hull. A comm transmission crackled through the cockpit. General Rourke. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Ryan, I need you to listen to me. Power down your ship. Surrender. This doesn't have to end badly." Ryan exhaled sharply. Surrender. To the same people who had sent him to die on Dakar 4. The same people who had lied about the war for decades. The same people who had just tried to blow him out of the sky. Ryan's fingers curled around the throttle. Not happening. Another voice cut in. This time, a Vishari commander. "Surrender the girl, Captain Cole. She is an enemy of her own people. She is not worth your life." Ryan glanced at Zira, lying weak in the co-pilot's seat, her silver skin dull and drained. She was barely conscious, barely breathing. But her violet eyes flickered open just enough to hear those words. And for a moment, Ryan saw something that terrified him. She was giving up. After everything. After fighting. After running. After surviving. She had finally lost hope. Ryan's chest tightened. Not yet. Not like this. They had one chance. One last move. Ryan turned back to the controls, voice sharp as steel. "You both want her dead. You both want me dead. So let's make something clear." He flipped a switch. A holographic data file appeared on screen, broadcasting on every open frequency. "We're not going down without telling the whole damn galaxy the truth." The truth broadcast. The transmission spread like wildfire. Across comm networks. Across secure military channels. Across every public relay beacon in known space. And the message was simple. The war is a lie. The Terran government and Vishari High Command engineered the entire conflict. They created the battles, the raids, the so-called incidents, all for power, control, and profit. The real war wasn't between humans and Vishari. The real war was against the truth. Ryan sat back, gripping the controls, heart hammering. It was done. The truth was out there now. They couldn't erase it. They couldn't silence it. Ryan had just set fire to the entire system, and there was no going back. The response, the silence that followed, was unbearable. Then, the Vishari warship fired first. Ryan cursed, jerking the ship hard left as a plasma beam cut through the empty void where they had been a moment ago. The Terran warship didn't hesitate either. A full-blown space battle erupted around them. Ryan and Zira were caught in the crossfire. Zira groaned, barely able to lift her head. What now? Ryan tightened his grip. We find out who our real friends are. The unknown ally. A sudden shockwave ripped through space. Then, a new fleet emerged from hyperspace. Ryan's visor flashed red. Multiple ships inbound. But these weren't Terran. And they weren't Vishari. They were something else. A comm link opened. Captain Cole. This is the Free Systems Alliance. We've been listening. We're here to help. Ryan froze. The Free Systems, a faction of independent worlds that had spent decades trying to break away from Terran and Vishari control. Ryan had heard rumors about them. No one had ever taken them seriously. Until now. Ryan's voice was hoarse. "You got our message. Loud and clear. And we got an offer." Ryan exchanged a glance with Zira. She was barely awake, but she managed a small half-smile. They weren't alone anymore. The final choice. The battlefield was chaos. The Terran warship and the Vishari warship were locked in combat, both trying to silence the truth. And in the middle of it all, Ryan and Zira had one decision left to make. The Free Systems Alliance was offering them a way out. A chance to keep fighting. A chance to take down the corrupt leaders who had started this war. Ryan Cole had spent his whole life following orders. Now he was writing his own. He turned to Zira. UN? She took a slow breath. Do we really have a choice? Ryan smirked. No. But this time, it's our choice to make. He grabbed the controls and punched the thrusters. The ship shot toward the Free Systems fleet, leaving behind the ruins of a war that no longer controlled them. The truth was free. Now, they would finish what they started. A war for the future. The fallout was immediate. Across the galaxy, governments collapsed. Armies turned against their own leaders. People rebelled, refusing to fight in a war that had been manufactured from the start. But the ones who had built this lie, they weren't done yet. The real war had just begun. Ryan Cole and Zira weren't just fugitives anymore. They were symbols. The first soldiers of a new revolution. And the galaxy. The galaxy was about to change forever.